Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Sharma gave a brief description about my activities. Well, just to introduce myself a little bit more, I have worked on crime reduction measures for the last about 32 years, maybe more than that. I have written 3 books. One was Controlling the Mind of a Criminal, the Yogic Way, in which I have propounded a new crime theory, which I call as yogic crime theory. I will be coming to that, and as to how that crime theory can be useful to the society, to the nation, and to the international community as well, to control crime. It not only tells the measures as to how crime can be reduced, but it also tells us as to why people commit crime. So that will be a lot of interesting thing to learn about. You see that reformative theory or the deterrent theories, these theories are basically meant to control crime. In deterrent theories, the criminal is basically punished and as well as banished from the society for a longer time, and he's made to work a lot so that by the time he comes back, he realizes that because of his activities, he suffered that. Whereas in reformative theories, the concept is that the man can be brought back to the society with a positive mind. He can be useful to the society, and the society can gain out of his activities. He should not be banished permanently, but after time he should be brought back. And you see the number of laws which have been framed, the Probation of Offenders Act or the JJ Act or the restorative justice practices which are now being adopted, or the commutation of the sentence, the remission of the sentence, all these things, they point out that the society is veering more towards the reformative theory. But by just framing the laws, our job is not. The law framers or the politicians think that just by introducing this concept in the legal books, the job is over. That is not so. We have to see the efficacy of the system. We have to see whether the system which has been introduced, whether that is working properly or not. And unfortunately, in our country, there is not much study on this thing. Whether these reformative measures have worked to the satisfaction or not, nobody has taken care to study the lacunae of the system or to study the strengths of the system. I have visited a number of prisons all across the country. I went to Kerala, I went to Delhi Tihar jail, then to J&K jails, prisons. What I found is that there are lots of schemes and programs for the economic rehabilitation of the offenders. They are taught as to how they can earn money, candle making, then book binding, and so many other things. But ultimately, when the offenders come out, they see that these jobs or the professions which they learned while in the prisons, they are not fetching them that kind of economic benefits which they were getting while indulging in criminal activities. So I've not seen many people joining these professions after leaving the prison system. And there is absolutely no system in place to change the behavior of the criminals while they are in the custody. That is the only time when the prisoner is under the custody, is under the supervision of the state, and the state has got a lot of time to do to change his behavior. But unfortunately, the state is not doing all these things. So on that count, the system suffers. Because ultimately, if you leave the man and expect that he would have reformed by just remaining in the prison, that is not the case. You have to change the behavior of the man. And for changing the behavior, you need to know as to what is behavior, how he learned that criminal behavior, how he retained that criminal behavior, and how that criminal behavior can be modified. It's not a small thing to explain in only 30 minutes, but I'll try to do that. The first criminological study on the behavior, that was with regard to the criminology, this white collar criminality, Edwin Sutherland's theory on white collar criminality, wherein he propounded that the people learn white collar criminality while remaining in a close association of the other persons who were indulging in such activities. And when they see that this sort of activity is bringing them a lot of money, they too indulged in all those activities. But he did not define as to how and why the same set of persons who are working in the same office or maybe in the same circumstances, why everybody is not involved in white collar criminality. Why only a particular set of people indulge in this white collar criminality? And what are the reasons? What are those biological reasons? What are those psychological reasons which compel a man to indulge in such activities? The concept was taken forward by a British psychologist, Hans J. Einstein. He propounded that the children who violate the mores of the society or maybe of the family, they get punished during their childhood days. If he does something which is an inappropriate, which the family thinks that is inappropriate or wrong thing, he gets punished, either a slap or reprimand or just like small things. And the child, when he grows up, he associates all those things with his those experiences in the later life. He thinks and he knows that if he violates the laws of the society, if he violates the law of the nation, then he would be punished, and then the consequences would be adverse. So on that count, perhaps he does not indulge in criminal activities. And those children or those persons who did not get those reprimands or those kind of situations in which there could be some break on his those inappropriate acts or inappropriate behaviors, they deviate towards crime. He propounded that that kind of thing is called instrumental learning type of thing. But ultimately, that concept also failed to account for the other type of crimes which are emerging nowadays. Now you can take the examples of cyber crimes, etc., or the drug crimes, etc. Then we have to see whether there are certain biological reasons or there are certain psychological reasons, there are economic reasons why people commit crime. A lot of American studies have been now carried out to study the biological aspects of the crime. And most of these pertain to the violent crimes. It has been studied and it has been proved now that if certain trace minerals, micronutrients which we take in our food, like zinc, like cadmium, like iron, etc., if there is imbalance in those micronutrients, then the parts of the brain which are responsible for our behavior, which put brake on our those inappropriate behaviors, biological brakes, so you can say, they don't develop that much properly. And if the brain is not well properly, then those types of persons, they get violent type of behavior in their later stages of life. The same is the case when the child is there in the womb, as is happening in Kashmir. Maybe that nobody has studied this thing, but if the child is there in the womb and there is tension outside, some firing is taking place, some terrorists have entered the house of that fellow, then that releases certain molecules in the womb, and the child inherits those types of behaviors, wherein maybe because of the less development of the brain abnormalities occur, and because of that, the child becomes a violent type of person in the later stages of life. That was the biological basis of. Now, the psychological basis also there. psychopaths, those who don't have any sympathy towards the victims of the crime. They enjoy the plight of the victims of the crime rather. And those types of persons have also been explained in so many criminological theories and concepts. I'm not going into detail in all those things. Then economic reasons have also been cited for certain type of crimes. People say that because of the uh, unequal distribution of the wealth, the poorer sections, they feel that because of the injustice done to them by the state, um, they have just tried to loot the properties of the rich, or they have to cause damage to the rich. That is also one of the thinking. But for going that deeper into this concept, let us take the example that how we behave in a particular fashion at a particular point of time. For example, if somebody has stabbed somebody, or if he has snatched money from somebody, we are not going to study the hands of that fellow to study as to why he committed that crime. We have to study the command and control center from the command to do that particular act came. And since the command and the control center is the human brain, we have to go to the human brain. In the same fashion, we can take the examples of other crimes as well. In the same fashion, if somebody commits a crime, we have to go to the this command and control center. And for that matter, I think I have to revert now to the slideshow, because that will be appropriate to explain the concept. So I'm sharing the screen now. And I'll try to explain the entire concept. Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yeah. You see that alternative reformation theory, I try to explain as to why people try to indulge in crimes from the Western perspective, biological reasons, then the economic reasons, then the psychological reasons. From biological reason, I'll try to explain that whenever you get some signal from your five sense organs, this is the biological angle as well as the Indian perspective as well. The five sense organs, your eyes, your ears, your tongue, your nose, and your skin. Whenever you get a signal from any quarter, this signal goes to the brain, human brain. And on the basis of that, whatever is stored in your brain, in the cells, from your past experiences, certain molecules are formed. These are called neurotransmitters. And those neurotransmitters then travel to your motor parts, and then you take a particular kind of action as to how to react to that particular kind of situation. Now, human brain, most of the people try to consider human brain as one part of body, just like your heart or your liver, etc. But human brain is not one part. It is composed of maybe thousands of mini brains, or maybe millions, or maybe billions. And each cell of the human brain, there are about 100 billion cells, and they are connected to each other by 1,000 connections each. So more than 1,000 trillion connections. So see the wiring. And each cell is capable of taking a decision of its own. So when you get a signal from the outer sources, you try to react to that. And those cells, after taking that signal, interpret that signal, and then try to react to that signal by forming those neurotransmitters, as I said earlier. But you see that our behavior is not the result of these outer signals only. We have a lot of things which are going on in our inner self. I'm talking about the human thoughts, human passions, his anger, his lust, greed. Now, what are these things? From where they come? If you if you try to find out from Western perspective, nobody will tell you as to what is lust. From they will simply say that lust comes from your a particular part of the brain, but that particular part of the brain is itself composed of billions of cells. So which particular cell is taking that decision to indulge in sexual crimes? Nobody has found out till today. In the same fashion, uh, if I have, if I get an idea that look, because of the activities of that fellow, I have suffered and I want to punish him. And after 6 months, I'll try to punish him. Whenever I get a chance, I'll stab him. No, that idea came to me. That idea where it was stored, because ultimately I have to take the action after 6 months. I am storing that idea. What is the total you can say value of, not value, I'm storing it, but what is the size of that file which I am storing in my mind, and where it is being stored, how it is being stored, how after 6 months it will be picked up by me, and all those thoughts and those passions which I have stored for those 6 months about that particular fellow, how I will reconnect all those things. Nobody knows about that. For that matter, Western science does not have any answer. For that matter, you will have to go to the mind concept as to what is human mind. Now, what is mind, of what material it is composed of, how it functions, why it functions in a particular fashion, why some people have got criminal minds, why some people have got positive minds, why people have got normal minds. What are those reasons? And where those millions and billions of files which I get on daily basis, after seeing so many things, after hearing so many things, after touching so many things, after smelling so many things, where those files are stored. Now, Indian philosophy says that that part of the human mind is called karmasya. It's just like the storehouse or the storage device. You can say, if you see it from the angle of a computer expert, the hard drive, where all those files are stored. And if you can delete those files, then you can create space in your mind or your brain. Now, for deleting those files, what are the processes involved? Because deleting a file or removing a file from your Almira, that is a simple thing. Deleting a file from your computer, that is also a very simple thing. But deleting a file from your mind, that is too difficult. For that matter, you have to go to the yoga and Sankhya philosophies. And yoga and Sankhya philosophies are those philosophies of India which give a lot of information as to how those files can be enfeebled, how those files can be removed. I talked about the human brain as to how this human brain is composed of, and then about the cells, how many number of cells are there. I think I don't have the time to go into the functioning of the cells because it takes a lot of time to explain the biological perspective as to how the cells function and how the genetic genes behave in a particular manner, and how the gene behavior can be modified, how the cell behavior can be modified. The science of epigenetics, I don't have the time to explain all those things. So I was talking about the ideas, thoughts, and passions, etc. You see that Indian philosophy of yoga and Sankhya say that there are 24 elements which constitute human body. 5 great elements, then false ego, intelligence, and 3 modes of nature. Now, these 3 modes of nature, what are these 3 modes of nature? Those people who have read the Bhagavad Gita or Sankhya philosophy, they must have read that 3 terms have been tried to be explained: Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. Now, Sattvic are those kinds of persons who have positivity in them, who do not do any harm to any society, to any individual. They are just for the good of the society. They, by their positive vibes, they try to reform the society. They try to contribute positively towards the society. Rajasic is something which normal people can be considered to be. Uh, they do all those normal activities. Sometimes they violate some laws as well, traffic laws or some laws, etc. But and most of the time, they are normal persons. And tamasic type of persons are those kinds of persons who are negative persons, who are always indulging in negative activities, who are always intending to harm the society by their criminal acts or by their illogical acts, whatever you may say. And these are the three types of persons which are, and these three types of gunas or qualities are present in each and every component of this entire universe. The entire universe is composed of these three components: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And it is not that these are static. That a person who is sattvic will always remain sattvic, or a person who is rajasic, he will always remain rajasic, or tamasic person will always remain tamasic. This is not the case. There is always a change of the ratios, and the ratio goes on changing by the kind of activity which that person is doing, by the kind of association which that person has, with the kind of food which that person is taking at a particular point of time. And when the quantity and the quality of those particular quality increases, it overtakes the other qualities. For example, one quality becomes 40% or 45%, it will overshadow the other qualities. And this process goes on throughout our life. And we have to change the ratio of these three qualities in a person. And that can be done by taking certain measures, yogic measures, as well as Sankhya type of measures. And that's why I was saying that we have to introduce these programs in our prison systems, in all programs, in wherever, for example, in the educational institutions, wherever the children are studying, you have to introduce all these programs. And these are specific programs which have been developed by me, on the basis of which I carried out the studies for about 5 years. And on the basis of that, I succeeded in changing the behavior of the persons. It was a more than 90% success rate. And you are not spending much on this thing. It's a very cost effective factor which can be done in schools, in educational institutions, in prison systems. And I was talking about that mind factor. You see that the brain is gross, mind is subtle. You can cut open the brain, you can see the parts of the brain, but you will not find, when you cut open the brain, as to where the mind is situated, how it is functioning, what are its parts, and how those parts can be modified. If you want to rectify the defects of an instrument, you must know the entire components of the instrument. And when we don't know the components of the human brain, we are hardly in a position to change the components or to remove the defects of those components. So unless and until you know as to what is mind, what is karmasya, how that karmasya part can be modified, how those files can be deleted from the human brain, you will not succeed in changing the human behavior. Yes, I was talking about that Satavaguna. You see that on the left side, everybody is impressed by Vivekananda. Everybody knows that the kind of personality he was, the kind of positive vibes he, and then the normal person, and then the criminal person. And these are the special type of asanas which have been developed by me, which can change not only behavior of the cells and the neurons, but also the genes as well. And meditation part is the important part of this thing. Now, the yogic crime theory which I have propounded, it says that the ratio of gunas which I was talking about, those sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic gunas, it fluctuates as per the food of these sense organs. We have to change the ratio of the sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic qualities. And then the sanskars. Now you see that sanskars are something which we may not be knowing that much about sanskar. Sanskars, the karma sanskars are those sanskars which the activities which we are doing on daily basis, some part of that, those activities get retained in our human brain. In the same fashion, whatever we are seeing, whatever we are hearing, whatever we are sensing, those some parts of those files, they get retained in our brain, and it is the ratio of these files. If the positive files are more, then the positive sanskars would be there. If the negative files are there, then the negative files would be much more, and that person would be a tamasic type of person. When you go deeper and deeper into the meditation part, these sanskars come to the of those files. They will come to the frontal part, and then ultimately they will also get deleted. When you go further deep, it will be ananda, joy, pure joy, and then you will start feeling that you have to do good to the society. Then, if you have come to the world with some objective, then that objective is for the welfare of the society, for the welfare of the country. You have to indulge in positive activities. You have to do positivity towards to the society. And then the last stage is Asmita. I'm not taking the audience to that deeper stage, because that is the stage which a large number of rishis, munis, etc. only then they succeed in going that much deeper. So when those illegal and illogical files or programs are removed from the human brain, then when we started at the time of birth, I'm taking the example of this birth only, because human or Indian philosophy says that we have to take into account the previous births, etc. But I'm not taking into that account. Let us take the example that at the time of birth, we had 33% of each type of qualities. But ultimately, when you succeed in removing these programs, then the composition of the neuron would be like this: pure joy, pure sattvic type of person. And these are the programs which need to be deleted from the human brains. And if somebody is indulging in killing somebody by using all these things, somebody is doing these illegal activities of drugs supply, etc. Somebody is doing these white collar criminality. You have to remove all those programs from home. And every person has got a different kind of personality. If a person is who is doing white collar criminality, he may not be a violent type of person. A person who is indulging in this drug supply cases, he may not be a violent type of person. So every type of person has to be dealt differently. And for every type of person, you have a different program. You cannot prescribe a general type of medicine for every person. Now, what are the actions which are required for all these things? Firstly, we have to change the attitudes through the specially designed programs, which we call as mass genetic and behavior engineering model of Sankhya yoga philosophy. And this concept can be used for changing the entire behavior of the communities. For example, you take the Naxal affected areas where a large number of people are indulging in those criminal activities, or terrorism affected areas, as is happening in Kashmir. The whole communities, if you have to touch the whole communities, then this concept can be used at mass level. Then you have to create the infrastructure, because unless and until you have the infrastructure for this thing, you will not succeed. You need the persons who are specially designed and who are specially trained for this thing. Then you have to institutionalize the process, because ultimately the institutionalization will help. Because you take the example that in a particular college or a school, at particular point of time, a particular person is acting as the principal. He may have that kind of inclination towards introducing all these programs. But by the time he changes, a new person comes, and he may not be having that kind of thinking. So everything will go away. This has happened with us, because we succeeded in mobilizing thousands of persons in J&K, and they were ready for this thing. But ultimately, when the police institution changed, the director generals changed, everything got to a knot. And, we lost everything. Then we have to involve the corporate sector, the educational institutions, the police, and the prison managements, because ultimately these are the institutions which can help in changing the behaviors of the persons. we have to take up the matter with the political leadership of the country, because the political leadership is not that much aware as to what are these concepts of how restorative justice can be introduced, how reformative theory which they have introduced, whether that is not working properly and how it can be modified or how it can be made more functional, more effective. Then there is a lot of material which is available either in Sanskrit language or in Hindi language. And a lot of people may not be understanding all those literatures. So you have to translate this entire literature in English language, because yoga, Sankhya philosophies, these are the things which need to be spread throughout the country and spread throughout the world as well. And for that matter, India will have to take a lead in this endeavor. And for that matter, I'll appeal to every participant in this program that let us join hands and let us write to the government of India and let us write to the state governments that these programs need to be introduced if we really want that the behavior of the persons become more positive, if there is less crime, if we want that there should be less crime, then we have to do all these things. And this concept, I know that there was a little bit of confusion in explaining the whole concept, because the entire thing had to be explained in 30 minutes. For this thing, I needed to take the audience to the quantum theory, the space relativity theory, the dark energy, as to what is dark energy, how atoms are constituted, what are those subatomic particles, how the physical sciences have not been able to find out the qualities of the human beings, from where the life comes, how the life migrates from one place to another, how the persons become violent. Then we needed to go into biology, needed to go into chemistry, behaviorism, neurobiology, genetics, epigenetics, Indian philosophy, and so many other things needed to be combined. And I do hope that I may have succeeded to some extent in saying this thing and in explaining this thing, that the reformative theory which we have implemented in India at the moment, that is not working properly, because we have left everything to the prisoner or to the person or to the offender. We believe that by the time he comes back, he would be a changed man, but that is not the case. I know that the time is a great healer and time is a great reformer as well, but leaving everything to the time is not going to help. We need to take certain concrete steps, and for taking those concrete steps, we have to be proactive. The job of the lawyer is not to just interpret laws and earn money or earn his livelihood. The job of the lawyer is also to change the society as well. And for changing the society, you need to be proactive. And for that matter, I'm expecting a lot from the audience, that they will help in this endeavor. And ultimately, we would be in a position to change the systems which are in existing at the moment. And this was the alternative type of reformative theory, which, if introduced in the prison sectors and the education sector, can help in changing the entire scenario of the criminal activities in the country. And with that, I think I have exceeded my time. I had to speak for only 30 minutes. I have exceeded my time. I'm again thankful to the organizer, to Mr. Keshav Sharma, and to all those persons in the team of Vestralex, that they provided me this opportunity of speaking to so many enlightened people. And I do hope that this lecture would be of some help to them. May not be in earning their livelihood, but in changing our concept about the criminal activities, how the criminal activities are doing so much of harm to the nation and to the society. And with that, I think I should conclude, and I'll wait for the question, and I'll try to answer all those questions. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you so much for taking us through this entirely different world of looking at law, not just from the very conventional manner in which we are generally told that we are supposed to, but from a perspective wherein it actually looks at the meaningful side of law. And sir, without saying much, I would straight away want to jump to the questions which have come our way. So, sir, there is one question from Miss Rashmi Singh Rana. Ms. Rashmi, would you want to ask this question yourself?
Sure, sir. Sir, my question is that when we think that our ancient legal system is so scientific and useful, why we are not following these things in a contemporary legal system?
This entirely depends upon the political behavior of the country. The kind of persons which we elect, that also reflects upon the political thinking of the uh, uh, ruling class or the ruling classes which have ruled from time to time. The problem with the ruling classes is that they don't know much about the legal frameworks in which the entire world is. They don't know anything about the criminology aspect as to why people commit crime, and very few people are inclined to use this concept for changing the criminal behaviors. We take it that yoga is useful only for changing the health of the people, but the uh, usefulness of yoga and Sankhya philosophy in changing criminal, tried to study it. I tried to study it. I tried to use it, and ultimately, I am saying today that if we use this concept, we can certainly change the criminal behaviors, and we put pressure on the political leadership of the country. That's why I was saying that we all should join hands and. We put pressure on the political leadership and try to convince them that you use this concept, and then there will be a lot of change in the behavior of the criminals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, there is another question from Mr. Himanshu. Mr. Himanshu, would you want to ask your question yourself? So this is a two-part question. I think we'll start with taking part one of it. Mr. Himanshu, would you want to ask, or should I ask on your behalf? All right, sir, I'll only ask. So his question is, what about the person who is sattvic in food habits and is only rajasic, tamasic in actions? Example, Adolf Hitler. How can such a person be identified and reformed?
As I said, that it is not only the food which is affecting our behavior. The kind of food, that is one aspect. The source of food is another aspect. For example, a person is looting somebody, is indulging in a lot of white collar criminality, but ultimately he would come home and take only sattvic food. That is not going to change his behavior. In the same fashion, the kind of association which that person has got, and the kind of programs which were there in his mind from his previous births, you see that uh, so many deaths are taking place every second. Millions and billions of creatures are dying every second. Now let us take the example that a lion or anaconda dies in the South Amazon region or in the African jungles. Now, if the lion is again born as an animal, that is not our problem. But if the lion takes birth as a human being, as per his sanskars, if the karman sanskars have ended, and then that kind of violent behavior would be there. So the current sanskars of our previous birth, they also determined to a large extent. But the Western world does not understand about the previous birth. They don't believe in the previous births. But even in this birth, if we are associated with so many other wrong people and negative kind of people, that will also affect our behavior. And for that matter, a lot of things are required to be taken into consideration while changing the programs of the human brain.
So, sir, again, it's like a science fiction legal class. Frankly, sir, the concept is that it's with respect to these things also, sir, they're very difficult for most people to understand. And again, in today's world, wherein people want to talk about science and that too from a very standard point of view, wherein there is physical correlation of every single evidence-based things they want. So automatically, sir, the idea of rebirth and reincarnation and all of these things, they become very distant to I think many such people. But I think that Sai Kumar sir has a question. Sai sir, would you want to ask, sir?
Only one thing, only suggestion
Please.
that only that reformative, the yes, the yes, that's the actually basic point of human behavior. I'm very impressed with that. It's not in the prisons. See, we have been told that prevention is better than cure. Prevention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
start at school level only, yoga. I agree with him. Beautifully, this is I think first topic. No one has touched it. No one. As that there's a human behavior. It is purely starting on human behavior. But sir, with all respect to you, and
Yeah.
the hard work you have done in this field, unknown field, to many of them, unknown field, very good thing. But even in ancient or medieval or modern time, bad elements have been there, have
Yeah.
been. So the brain, as you said, that yes, the sanskars are there are so many things. It is not, but food is also one thing. Unseen man banta hai. So your suggestion is if you can draft a very good letter
Mhm.
with, please circulate it to Keshav. I'll see it from all over India, wherever we have
Right,
all.
sir.
Definitely will forward it to the each state, not only state government, but also central government to introduce this. I have presented one paper in Garhwal when I was PhD, that about the education. I said two things are required here. One is yoga. Second is that every even Indian, I limit myself to just now India, that should be given military training at 10th, at the 10th, 2 months training,
Right.
military. So this material that creates a the thing. Then another thing, this requires very long again thought, but we can begin from writing. Definitely, I'm very impressed with, very impressed. You
Right,
are,
sir. So nice of you, sir. Let me tell you that I made a proposal called Project Safe JNK, Safe India. I submitted it to the office of the Honorable Prime Minister. I submitted it to the office of the Honorable Home Minister, but nobody responds to that. And for the last about 10, 15 years, I have organized so many conferences. Everybody appreciates this thing. In one of my conferences, one sitting Supreme Court judge came. He appreciated this thing. And so many other conferences, so many important people, governors, chief ministers, they appreciate this thing. But when the question of implementing the suggestions comes, nobody is ready to take the action. I'll certainly forward it to your good self and to Mr. Keshav Sharma as well, and do hope that with our concerted efforts, we would be in a position to change the
yeah,
landscape of the country towards positivity.
no, let us take forward this to corporate level, that under
Right,
C.
sir.
Yes, sir. Then we can expect something can be done.
You see that in the corporate sector, as per my studies, the corporate sector is suffering around 5 to 10% of its total productivity production cost because of the white collar criminality and the blue collar criminality. And I'm not saying that we can eliminate it totally, but if we can succeed in bringing it, say, by 1%, that would also mean about thousands of saving of the thousands of crores for to the corporate sector. But I don't have the access to the corporate sector, and I do hope that with your kind intervention and your kind support, we would be in a position to take the concept to the corporate sector, and we would be in a position to convince the corporate sector that it ultimately it is for their benefit. If they implement this concept in their institutions, they can save billions of rupees. And for that matter, we need to convince them, and we can convince them.
Yes, sir. And please share that with Keshav. We'll also
Right.
send to all the MPs of all the
Right, sir.
states.
Right, sir.
Definitely.
So,
So,
so
sir, very humbly, just I want to submit one very small aspect of it. So, sir, I also feel very devoted and committed to the cause of mental health. And with that respect, sir, there was this letter which I sent to every single MP, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in the country. This was during the Sushant Singh Rajput incident when it was happening,
okay.
because no one was looking at the aspect of where the mind of that one particular
Mm,
person who
mm,
technically had everything, money, fame, whatever people generally aspire for. And sir, I actually based that letter upon two studies which were published both in consultation with ICMR as well, and wherein it was very clearly and very categorically stated that in India, 1 out of 7 people, approximately 15% people, need some kind of psychiatric or some kind of counseling intervention. And it is most unfortunate, because how I see it is that that one person is in a family or in a connection of about 3 to 4 more people. So for me, I see it directly as one multiplies directly by 4, and those 4 directly are related to so many other. And it eventually, as you very rightfully put it forward, that this is one cause which is actually, if people want to, or if people understand money, then then understand it financially, that it is causing you severe financial losses, that it is causing you loss of productivity, it is causing your employees such grave issues and such grave challenges with them. So this is definitely one topic which has to be picked up. And so I sent it to about, sir, about 500 600 MPs, and I'll be honest with you, sir, not a single reply came,
Right.
not one. So that is my humble submission. So, but definitely, sir, I really do understand and I really appreciate this particular cause. And I've said it to you earlier, and I reiterate the same thing to you again, that my services are entirely devoted to you for this cause. I am absolutely devoted. My life I want to devote to the cause of mental health, because I know it is foremost and most important for every single person to be correct somewhere where generally people are not. And sir, on the idea of how we'll be able to, or how we can make change, Lavneesh sir is also here. So Himachal Pradesh Bar Association, sir, we have the opportunity of seeking their guidance and support also with respect to this noble cause that, sir, you have so rightfully put forward. And hopefully, sir, the likes of Lavneesh sir, the likes of Sai sir, the likes of you yourself, sir, obviously all the initiatives that you've taken, and so many other people who are doing such constructive work. So you mentioned Bhagavad Gita. It also talks about a sthit pragya vyakti,
Yeah.
a person who is at the right place. So, and it says that if you are there, then you will find all such people. You will just find them. It just works like that. वो connection बैठ जाता है.
Yeah.
So, sir, let's again, sir, with your blessings only, and with the blessings of all of our seniors. So I'm quite sure that this is a very noble cause that you've championed, sir, and we'll be able to take this forward. At least we'll try.
Right.
We will hear again on one aspect.
Most definitely, sir. So, sir, I thank you again
Thank
on
you.
behalf of the entire Vestralex team, of all of our participants. I'm quite sure in conveying my most humblest and most deepest respects and regards to you in this respect.